Okay, Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli, Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-ikhlas, Allahumma salli wa sallim ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to all of my lovely sisters who have made it this far. We're near the end now. We're on ayah number 15. There's 18 ayahs in total, so we only have 3 days before we complete, inshallah, this surah after today. Okay, so let me bring up this ayah. This ayah is a little, we are going to complete the ayah today, and it is quite one of the more longer ayahs that we can actually finish in the session, but it does mean that we have to kind of start pretty soon. So let's just dive in, inshallah. We'll start with the isti'adha and the basmala, of course. So Sister Farhat, if you'd like to join me for this. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
And the basmala. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Okay, so we start off with the word innamal mu'minun. Of course, we've seen the inna. We know that the noon mushaddad is akmal gunna, so we hold it. Inna. Be careful here, the noon with the fatha is only one count. So we do not want to prolong the na bit. Okay, innama. Now, normally we read this as a regular mad tabi'i, this alif after the meme. It would have been 2 counts if we were stopping. If we just read this word on its own, we would say innama. But when we are joining with the next word, we have to join with the lam, okay? And then we get a problem of iltiqa as-sakinain. For those of you who have learnt the rules of iltiqa as-sakinain. In this case, because it's a mud letter that's involved with the meeting of the 2 sukoons, we drop the mud letter. And therefore, essentially what we're doing is we're moving from the meme with the fatha to the lam. Okay, and the lam is again a tawassut letter. Innamal. The lam you can stay on for a little bit because it's one of those ones which are not too long or not too short. Then we come to al-mu'minina, sorry, al-mu'minuna rather. Now we've seen this hamza before, and if you remember, I did mention when you have a hamza sitting on another letter, it could be a waw, it could be an alif, it could be a ya. Sometimes it's underneath the letter, like it is here at the beginning of the ayah. Then for Hafs and Asim, we are reading the hamza. We are not reading the letter that it's sitting on. Okay, so in this case, it's sitting on a letter waw. Normally they call the waw the seat for the hamza. We're not reading the waw, we're actually reading the hamza. And hamza is a shidda letter. It's one of the letters that you stop the sound. And because it has a sukoon or a jazm here, that sifa or that characteristic of the hamza, the stopping of the sound, becomes more clear. So we say innamal mu. You stop the sound all of a sudden. Mu'minuna. So you kind of have this jerk or this stopping of the sound in the middle of this word, and then you move on to the minuna part, al-mu'minuna, the meme with the kasra, of course, remembering not to say me. It's very easy to say al-mu'minu, not me, al-mu'minuna. And then the noon, of course, here we have another mad tabi'i. Just as extra information for those of you that know, of course, if you were stopping on this word, then this mad waw would not be a mad tabi'i, it would be a mad aarid li-sukun, in which case it would be read for 2, 4, or 6 counts. But because we are going to continue reading, we are going to read it as a regular mad tabi'i and make it 2 counts. Okay. Now I am going to carry on to the next word because again, the ending of al-mu'minuna is joint to the next word. Okay, so we have the word al-ladhina. Al-ladhina, for those of you that know, of course, this lam here is lam al-ta'rif. It is lam al-ta'rif al-shamsiyya, and the hukum is idgham. And because the hukum is idgham, that's why you see the shadda on the lam. Okay, that's just a revision for those of you that already know about it. If you don't know about it, don't worry. Okay, so we have then al-ladhina. Again, the mud for the 2 counts. Bearing in mind the makhraj of the dhal. Remember, the dhal is not, the tongue is not kept inside the mouth. It sticks out a little bit. It's where the tip of the tongue touches the bottom edge of the upper 2 incisors. Okay, the alladhina. Okay, so let's try it up until here. Sister Farhat, if you'd like to join me for this part. إنما المؤمنون الذين
إنما المؤمنون الذين
Good. Jazakumullahu khairan. Okay, then we come to the word amanu. Now, for those of you that know that this alif after the hamza is a mad badal, we've seen it before, and I have mentioned it, I think it was 2 sessions ago, where if the mud letter, if you have a mud letter, and the mud letter could be alif, waw, or ya, and it has a hamza before it, then the mud letter is, then the mud is called a mud badal. It is a normal mud tabi, a regular type of mud asli or a mud tabi. It is a 2 count mud, but remember the name makes it more specific. Badal tells anyone if I speak to anyone and tell them this is mad badal, they will know immediately there is a hamza involved and there's a hamza before the mad letter. Okay, so that's stretched for 2 counts. We have amanu. What do we have to be careful with the last part? I can't see my pen. Let's do a little scribble somewhere. There we go. Okay, so what you see here at the end, what you have to really be careful of is one, making sure that you circle the lips, amanu, but also when you circle the lips, make sure you leave a gap. Okay, so you don't want to make it so small that it's amanu, where you hardly see the gap. Amanu, you have a gap to allow the sound to come out through the mouth. It's not one of the, when you're pronouncing this mud, it's not one which requires the sound to stay in the mouth or to go through the nasal cavity. You've got to make sure the sound is coming out through the lips. Okay. Then we have the word billahi. Billahi. The ba is joined with the name of Allah, with the lam in the name of Allah. So here you join with the first lam, you do the tawassut, you then continue. Now, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, but every time you see the name of Allah in the Mus'haf, you will see it written like this, okay? But we never recite it exactly how it appears, okay? We actually always read it with a small mud after the lam. We actually say billahi. We stretch the lam, right? It's not drawn, and there is a reason why the alif is not drawn. We haven't got time today to go into that, but the alif is not drawn here, but we always recite it as though it's there because that is the name of Allah. It has a mud in it. Okay, so we say billahi, billahi. Okay, we let's try up until there, Sister Salma. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله.
إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله.
Good, mashallah. So it's just, and I know you are familiar already now with the mud, the gunna in the mud, right? So it's a good opportunity to keep practicing. So I'm going to get you to say again, just say, ooh.
Ooh.
Yes, just make sure you got a slight a gap. Make sure you keep the gap. So don't close too tightly with the lips. So not ooh, ooh, not like that. Ooh, ooh. Okay, so try that again. Think about how your voice is traveling. Ooh.
Ooh.
Now, I'm going to make you say it again, but straight after it, we're going to add the nu. Okay. So the way that you say ooh, after you say the noon in nu, when you say the first nu part, I want you to go back to exactly how you said the ooh and finish it off in the same way. Ooh, nu.
Ooh, no.
It's a little bit there. You've done it better before. We'll try it one more time. Ooh, nu.
Ooh, no.
It's getting there. It's getting there. It's still, you have done a better one in the past. So it's just a matter of practice, inshallah. Keep practicing that way. Inshallah, it will come because well, it's not, it will come. It is coming because I've heard you say it. So alhamdulillah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Okay. So then we move on to wa rasuli. Wa, of course, we've seen this word come up a few times now. So very quickly, the wa is light, the ra is heavy. We have to be careful of the scene here. Okay. The scene is quite key because it's very easy to say wa rasul, right? You want to say wa rasul, wa rasul. Okay. Just to try again, Sister Salma. It's not coming up as a notification. Okay, so we have it wa rasul. The scene, making sure it's a nice like su, not su. Su is too heavy. Su. So if you find, and a lot of you, this is going to be a very common, I've seen it many times with many sisters. It is something I used to do myself. Sometimes it helps after saying the heavy ra, and I've said this one before, so this is a reminder to relax your lips again and start from the beginning for scene. Wara su 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 warasu warasu warasuli warasuli. Alhamdulillah, she's joined us now. Okay, again, here we have this small ya saghira. We've seen the same rule, I think, with a waw saghira before. This is your mad sila sughra. Again, this is a mad letter. So mad letters don't have to be big. We've seen the big ones, like, for example, in amanu, mu'minun. They don't need to be big. They can be small letters as well, like we're seeing here. And again, it's 2 counts. It's just, and the name Silatul Sughra is a more specific name. Again, it identifies exactly what's going on here. For those of you that have done our courses, you'll know, of course, that Mad Sila Sughra involves a ha dhamir, the pronoun at the end. It has to be mutaharrik. It has to have a haraka, which it does. And then the letter before it and the letter after it also have to be mutaharrik, and they both are. So that fulfills the conditions of it being a Mad Sila Sughra, and therefore we can apply the 2 count mud here. There are 2 exceptions. I'm not going to go into them today, but there are 2 exceptions to this rule, of course, and those of you that have done the course will be already aware of these exceptions. Okay, so here we have warasulihi. Okay. So warasulihi, so the timing that you hold su for 2 counts, same amount of time for the he also for 2 counts. Okay. Right, let's try let's carry on going till the end of the line, inshallah, then we'll practice it together. Then you have the word thumma, thumma. The tha with the dhamma circling the lips, thu. It's an airy letter, so you'll notice you do hear the breath with it. Thu, thum, thum. Notice when I'm joining with the meme, my lips do not stay in the dhamma position. I don't say thum, I say thum, thum, thumma, thumma. Okay, so your lips come back for that. The meme is mushaddad akmal gunna, so we're holding the joining. Thumma lam. Okay, be careful not to extend this meme at the end. So you say thum, but then you say ma, just 1 count at the end, and you go straight on to the lam. Okay. The meme here is, of course, the wasut. It's not too long, not too short. So we say thumma lam, thumma lam. Okay. And finally, the last word here is yartabu. We have the ra. We need to think about whether it's heavy or light. And based on the simple or the basic sort of fundamental rules that we covered the other day, we can see that because the ra has a sukoon or a jazm on it, that doesn't really tell us whether the ra is heavy. It doesn't give us any indication as to how we are going to pronounce it. So what do we do in this case? We go to the letter before. The letter before is the letter ya. The type of letter is irrelevant. It's what haraka it's carrying, whether it carries a fatha, dhamma, or a kasra. In this case, it's something at the top. It's a fatha. Therefore, the ra is read heavy. So I hope that's ringing a bell for you all, okay? So we say ya, yar. What you do need to be careful of though here is you don't say ya, yar, ya. You don't make the ya heavy too. You want to keep the ya light. Lam ya, lam yar, yartabu. The ra is, of course, the wasut, so you can't stay on it for a bit, okay? But the key thing to remember here is keep the ya light. Finish just how you say ya, fatha, ya. Keep the ya sound. Yar, yartabu, yartabu. Okay? The ta, of course, is 2 counts. The bu is also 2 counts. Okay, let's try this from the beginning, inshallah. So, Auntie Nasreen, if you'd like to join me for this. Okay. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله.
إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله.
Okay, just that difference, Auntie, with the wow and the ra here. When you're saying the light wa ra, rasuli.
ورسوله.
It's better. Jazakumullahu khairan. Alhamdulillah. If we are stopping on this word and saying wa rasuli, that we do not read this ya. Okay. Instead, we put a sukoon or a jazm on the ha, and the ha is a rahawa letter, so we keep it running. Wa rasuli. Li. Wa rasuli. Okay, so you keep the ha running if you are going to stop. Okay, let's carry on with this, Auntie. ثم لم يرتابوا.
ثم لم يرتابوا.
Okay, so don't forget the mud here, Auntie. We've got the alif. Okay, so the da and the bu, same timing. Da bu. Let's try that again. ثم لم يرتابوا.
ثم لم يرتابوا.
Your da can be light, Auntie. Da.
تابوا.
That's better. لم يرتابوا.
لم يرتابوا.
That was your best yet, mashallah. Barakallah feek. Well done, Auntie. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so coming on to the next portion of this ayah, we have wajahadu. Now, all of these letters are like letters. We have wajah. The jim is produced from the middle of the tongue. The jim is actually a shidda letter. It's one that has, normally if it has a sukoon, we stop the sound. Here it doesn't have a sukoon, so we don't need to worry about that aspect of it too much. But what you need to be careful of is with shidda letters, there's always, and I have mentioned this before, there's a strength in the makhraj, in the articulation point. So for example, when you are the makhraj of the jim, let me just cover that first actually. The jim is produced or pronounced using the middle of the tongue. It's the very middle, okay? And what happens is that middle of the tongue just lifts up, okay? So it just lifts up and it just goes to whatever's opposite to it. I mean, in the Arabic definition, they actually literally do say it raises to what lies opposite of the upper palate. So it's just going straight up. The middle of the tongue is just going straight up. Let's see if I can show you. It's going to be a bit fiddly. Kind of like this. Okay, so the middle of the tongue raises up, straight up, and then it comes down. If you are too weak with that makhraj, if you don't put some strength into it and say wajah, wajah, it may sound like wajah, ja, you know, almost like the French, right? And you want to avoid that. How do you make it so that you're not saying wajah, wajah, wajah? You have to make sure that the middle of the tongue is going higher and wajah, and it's actually presses on the upper palate. Okay, so normally if you make a sound like a j type of sound, it's because the tongue is coming very close, but it's not actually touching the upper palate. Okay, what you want is you want it to come up and then let go. Wa, so you say wa, ja, ja, but you're touching it at the beginning. Okay, the middle of the tongue is touching it at the beginning. So you got to put a bit of strength into your jim to make sure that it is the correct sound. But it is a light letter, so you don't want to say wajah. You want to say wajah. You want to rhyme it with the wa. Wa and has a a ending. You want that same a ending carried into your ja. Wajah. Okay. Wajaha. Even the ha. This has the same ending. Okay, it's not as long because it's back to one count. So we've got one count wow, two count jim because of the mad tabi'i, the mad alif after it, and then we're back to ha. But they all have the a ending. Wajahadu. Wajaha, wajaha. It's not wajaha or wajaha. Okay, wajaha. Then the do with is pretty straightforward. Two counts. Dal, we've discussed the makhraj. Remember, as long as you're not pressing against the teeth, you remember the makhraj is the gums behind the upper teeth. Okay, so just bearing that in mind. Let's try that, Sister Farhat. Wajahadu.
وجاهدوا.
Good, alhamdulillah. With your dal, I want you to use a slightly narrower part of the tip of the tongue. So at the moment, what you'll find is when you're touching the top, you're probably using, and it sounds like you're using more, like all of this area is pressing, right? What I want you to do is not press with all of this part, but press with just this part, a narrower part at the top. Da, do, di, wajahadu.
وجاهدوا.
A little bit better. See, the difference is if I say the old way, I mean, I want you to hear the difference. So even for those of you at home, if you use a wider area, you say wajahadu, do, the, right? Do. If you want it lighter, that's me pressing also against the teeth. I'm using a wider part of my tongue and I'm pressing against the teeth, which I shouldn't be doing. Okay. So you want to use a narrower part of the tongue and you want to keep it behind the teeth. So you're not actually pressing against the teeth, you're pressing on the gum. Okay, the gum behind. So remember, it's that part here. Okay, the gum, that's where you're pressing. So you're not pressing against the teeth here. Okay, you're staying a little bit just behind the teeth. What? So that way it sounds like wajahadu, not do. No, that was wrong. Not do. That's the one that sisters are often saying wajahadu, not do, wajahadu. Okay, just to make it sound lighter. Jazakumullahu khairan. Okay, then we come to the next word, bi amwalihim. Bi amwalihim. Now, often what you'll find is in a lot of the scholars have often documented in their books how if you have a meme and a wow together, you do have to be careful because it's very easy to kind of merge them both, okay, and not keep them distinctly clear from each other, okay. So what you want to do here is you want to say bi your lips come together for the meme. You do the tawassut, it's not too long, not too short. Bi and then when you say the wow, you don't start from the sometimes people do that, they'll say and they start to get ready for the wow. Because for the wow, you need to circle the lips first. You say wa. So you need to get through the position, the circling of the lips when you say wa. So often people say be right? And that changes the sound of the meme. And what you want to do is you want to stay here for the finish the meme. When you finish saying the meme, then go for the wow. Bi amwalihim. Sometimes people say bi amwa. See how the wow is starting also to sound different. Bi amwa. It's not a good sound. So you finish the meme, you then move on to the wow, both read in their own right. Okay, the wow is for 2 counts, and then we have lihim. Be careful not to say. Oops, sorry. Be careful not to say lihim. Okay, lihim. So Sister Farhad, wajahadu bi amwalihim.
وجاهدوا بأموالهم.
Jazakumullahu khairan, alhamdulillah. Then we have the word wa'anfusihim. So here you have your noon sakin followed by a fa, which we've seen before. If you can remember the name, say it out loud. Noon sakin followed by fa. We've seen it with a fa. So if you can remember, this is one way we hide the noon. This is ikhfa, haqiqi. And because the next letter is a fa, which is a light letter, it's with a light gunna. Okay. Remember, this is the one where you prep for the next letter, but you don't actually pronounce the next letter. Okay. So you say bi'afu, bi'afusihim, bi'afusihim. Okay. Sister Farad, if you'd like to try that for me. Wa'anfusihim.
وأنفسهم.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Then we have the word fi sabilillah. Now, the only thing you have to really be careful here is one is your counts. Fi is 2 counts, so don't cut it short and say fi sabi, right? Fi sabil. You have the 2 counts again in the B. The lam, when you join it with the lams in the name of Allah, you just got to make sure you get the kasra. Okay, you don't say fi sabilillah, for example. Often sisters will say fi sabilillah or fi sabilillah, right? Fi sabilillah, fi sabilillah. If you're stopping here, then you are putting a sukoon or a jazm on the ha, and again you pronounce it with, you join the ha at the end and you let it run. It's a rahawa letter. It's one that you keep running for a bit. So let's try this, Sister Farhat, from the beginning. وَجَاهَدُوا بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ.
وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله.
Just gentler joining when you at the end when you say sabilillah. It sounds like you're almost jumping sabilil, that part, lil, right? So just a little bit more gently. Fi sabilillah.
في سبيل الله.
Much better. Jazakumullahu khairan. And then finally we have ulaika. Here we have the mad alif. It has the long mad sign. This is mad wajib muttasil. We stretch it for 4 to 5 counts. And then this wow, I have I think mentioned before. Remember this wow, if you can see the symbol on it is very different to a sukoon. or a jazm. So you can see, for example, we have a sukoon or a jazm over here. See, it's not the same symbol, which means actually this symbol is not a jazm or a sukoon symbol. It's not ulaika. It's actually that symbol, that circle on top of the wow, is there because you don't read it. Okay, it's there for another reason. It's got to do with the script and how the old script of the Quran was written, because in the past it never had any harakat. And because of that, this wow was added to represent the dhamma on the hamza. Now, the only thing is, because of time, I can't actually go into it. It's actually very interesting why this wow has been put here. Maybe, inshallah, it is something we can discuss another time. Maybe I doubt it will be in this series. But it is a very interesting discussion why this wow is there in the first place. And it all comes back to not removing any possibility of misunderstanding. Okay, so this wow is not actually read, it's just there for the understanding to recognize the word. So here we say ulaik. Okay, ulaika, ulaika. You prolong the lam, you then pronounce a nice sharp hamza, and you say ulai, ulai, ulaika. Sometimes sisters will say ulaika, ulai. You see, the hamza is very gentle, it's very blended in with the recitation. It shouldn't be like that. It's supposed to have a sharpness and an abruptness to it when you're reciting. Ulaika. So it's almost like after the mud, after you finish saying the la, then you kind of stop your voice and start again. Okay, moving on, we have humus sadiqun. Humu, both dhammas, we pronounce them both as humu. Humu. We don't say homu, ho. This is very common too. So remember, dive into the dhamma straight away and make a proper u sound. Humu, humu. The meme is then joined with the sad. The sad is a rakhawa letter. So when you first join with the meme, you prolong it. Humus. And you hold that first. Okay. Then you finish the word off. Okay. And then the sad will be stretched for 2 counts because of this mad tabi'i. And then we have to be careful of pronouncing the kasra as a e. Humusadi, humusadiqun. So you get the dal, you pronounce the kasra, make it nice and sharp. The qaf is your heavy letter, the one where your back of the tongue, remember this is the soft palate. So we don't say kun, ku, 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 we say ku, 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 further back. Okay. Let's try this, Sister Zuleika, if you'd like to join me for this portion. أولئك هم الصادقون.
أولئك هم الصادقون.
Let's try it one more time. أولئك هم الصادقون.
أولئك هم الصادقون.
Good. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Okay, let's go back to the beginning and then we can finish off, inshallah. So, Auntie Nasreen, if you'd like to join me for the first part. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله.
إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله.
Okay, so just be careful when you say al-mu'minun alladhina, when you say the fatha of the lam, just be careful not to say la. So you don't want to say al-mu'minun alla. It's nalla, nice and light. Innamal mu'minun alladhina amanu. Try that, Auntie.
المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله.
So try on its own for me, Auntie. Lam, fatha la.
Lam, fatha la.
Good. Keep this one. Allah.
Allah.
Good. Alladhina.
Alladhina.
You just prolong the la a little bit. Alladhina.
Alladhina.
It's a bit better. It's starting to lean slightly again, but it's, that's how I'd like you to practice, Auntie, because in isolation, you say it much better. So just practicing the la, lam, fatha la, alla, alla, alladhina, alladhina. Okay?
Alladhina.
It's slipped a little bit. It's not as bad as it was before. It's better, but when you say in isolation, it's better than how you're reciting in the words, Auntie. So just keep practicing that way that I've just mentioned, inshallah. Okay, Sister Farhat, if you'd like to join me for because Sister Zuleika did the last part, I'll get Sister Zuleika to do this part, and you can do the last part, inshallah. So Sister Zuleika, if you'd like to join me for the next part. ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم.
ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم.
Okay, so just the ikhfa, your tongue was touching the makhraj of the noon, and so you remember the tongue should not be touching the makhraj of the noon, or even if you kept that bit clear, some part of your tongue was touching the upper palate. So just make sure no part of the tongue is touching the upper palate. وأنفسهم.
وأنفسهم.
Yes, is your bottom lip going in a little bit, like that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so remember you're using the inside of the bottom lip. That might make it easier as well. It's actually probably that's making me think that the tongue is touching the top, because when your lip is pressing against the that gives a tightness to the noon as well. So if you try to use the inside of the bottom lip, the wet part, as it's called, and also remember it's going very close to the teeth, but you're not pressing it on the teeth. وأنفسهم.
وأنفسهم.
Much better. Let's try it one more time. وأنفسهم.
وأنفسهم.
Much better. Much better. جزاكم الله خيرا.
جزاك الله خير.
بارك الله فيكي. Let's just finish up till the jim, just to finish the complete the meaning of this portion. وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله.
وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله.
And well done, mashallah. You fixed it yourself. You heard it the wrong way, mashallah, and then I could hear the difference, mashallah, when you recited it the second time. So well done, alhamdulillah. Barakallah feek. And finally, Sister Farhat, if you could do the last part for me. أولئك هم الصادقون.
أولئك هم الصادقون.
Let's do that one more time. أولئك هم الصادقون.
أولئك هم الصادقون.
جزاكم الله خيرا. Well done, everybody. Alhamdulillah, you've all done well. Remember to, if there's any pointers that anybody's picked up, even from home, even for the sisters who have kindly joined us for the sessions that we've been having, please do make sure you keep practicing. Things only get better with practice. It's one part of it is understanding how to fix your mistakes. The second part of that is building it into your routine and making it into a habit, and that part only comes with practice. So it's every time. I mean, one thing you could do is maybe when you're going to read your portion of the Quran, have a look through it very quickly. If you know, for example, supposing you have a problem with the ra, okay, the heavy ra, then you could go around looking at your the text of the mushaf that you're looking at, and every time you see the ra, just give it a small underline, and then come back and read when you read that page or those particular ayat, however much you're going to read. Then as soon as you see that ra is underlined, is highlighted for you, and it will remind you that, oh yes, I need to pay attention to it. Because sometimes as you're reading, you forget, because you're thinking about other letters as well. It's very easy sometimes to miss out letters that you need to be working on. Okay, we need to end there because I have gone over. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'anil Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikril hakim. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.